Yeah, yeah. To be honest with you, I'm on my second cup of coffee as well. So yeah, I'm ready to go. Sam was just talking that he actually has an 8 o'clock start at the shop, so he's still good. So
Sam, we can't do any earlier. I'm sorry.
I know.
No, you know, part of it is that I can always use my mobile phone and just be part of the meetings every morning that way. I prefer to be at my desk because I'm just focused sitting out there. It's more comfortable. It's also not distracting when this is happening.
I might throw up in a minute.
So I would just have to turn off the camera. That's the only thing I'll do going forward.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sam, for joining and participating and everything. That which kind of brings me, I sort of have good news, bad news, and I'll start with the good news. Well, so I've got, I think there's only one or two of our recordings left for me to edit to post on YouTube. So right now, I think we're sitting at 12 of them are sitting in there in YouTube. And with everything, we have actually over 500 views.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So that's the good news. That's the good news. The bad news is I don't see any new faces.
That's bizarre.
So that's a kind of a bummer because I was thinking, you know, we've got a couple more of these backpacking ones still to put together, and then we're going to follow up in surfing. And I really don't see us doing anymore. I mean, if it's just most of us have been through this twice already. So I don't know. I really don't know how to get more, I guess, not only more people, but different people too, just so that it's not the same half a dozen people having the same conversations, you know, over and over, you know. So I don't know if you have any thoughts or what else we could possibly do. Maybe even bring it up
right now. The YouTube video has, let's say, 500 views or whatever. Is there a way at the beginning or the end of your YouTube videos to do like a quick little synopsis? Hey, join us for these meetings. They happen every, Sunday at 7:30 in the morning. Join us for these meetings. Join us for these, like, just because every time I watch a YouTube video, it's like, always be sure to like and share this video. Be sure to like and share this video. Because the more that gets shared on YouTube, the more people see it, maybe the more people show up. Just using it as a marketing ploy while you're put up the videos. Like just put like a 2-second clip of you talking and be like, hey, we do this every Sunday. You know, maybe something like that might work.
Yeah. So what I have been doing is there is a sort of scrolling message going into the intro of basically, you know, to join our group. And I'm basically inviting and saying to join us, just send me your email address so you can get an invite. And I make it pretty clear that, you know, all levels are welcome. You don't have to be an expert backpacker to join us for our backpacking discussion. You could never have gone. In fact, those are the people I'm really looking for.
Yeah.
And so I have been doing that, but I might just put together just a little short video clip, maybe verbalizing that rather than just, you know,
I think that helps.
Maybe not paying attention to. Yeah, that might be a little bit more effective. And I think that we could do that. I could definitely do that. You know, because I still have our first backpacking meet to edit yet. Obviously this one. And I think it's the last. Oh, you know what? That might be the only one. There might be only one. And then this one here after today. So I may get those both pumped out and just kind of get up to speed so they're current and go from there. So that might be more effective, Travis, rather than have something up there somebody has to pay attention to or read and everything. So
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
You know, I've never really asked you what your real goal or your real objective was behind the video. Was it to create an online channel of education and so on? I don't know if that's it, but from my perspective, I find that participation can be greater and helpful in general for me if in advance of a trip, let's say in 3 weeks, I'm going to take this backpacking trip. And if there was all these pre-courses before the trip, I find I'm much more engaged because I'm like this high compression learning period and in advance of a trip. So it's like have a trip, get people signed up, and then in weeks in advance, you're kind of educating them along the way via what you're doing. So I don't know if that's another modality you can approach to getting more attendance.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Sam. I think, well, to be completely honest, Moonshadow has the direction has been sort of a pinball experience for me. It started out as one thing, you know, basically what it is just trying to help people get into the outdoors, whatever way and whatever tool that I can use. And here's where we're at. You know, it started out as actually lessons. I really wanted to actually be hands-on with people, but this is sort of morphed into this experience right here. I think, I don't know if you remember this, Travis, but it was you and Charles and I were in the break room, you know, a couple years ago, and we just sort of brainstormed on this a little bit, and we all kind of like, oh, you know, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And here we are. This is kind of what we've put together. You know, I've actually kind of kept my goals of where this thing goes sort of open because I don't really know. I really don't know. Now we've had some pretty good participation. At times we've had really, really good participation, and our outings have been, for the most part, pretty good. But from here, you know, I just thought it might be a good way of, and that's why I'm doing the recordings. That's why we're doing this on a Sunday. That's why we're making this available online. So people don't have to put a whole lot of effort into it to actually participate for an hour and get some information, some knowledge out of it and share. And so
Dave, I think
I feel like we're still meeting our goal, but it's a little bit, you know, go ahead, Travis.
I'm sorry to interrupt them. I got excited for a second, but you have to think about how important it is that you said 500 people view your videos. That's pretty damn impressive. For 4 of us sitting here right now, 5 of us sitting here right now, 400 people watched us talk to each other about the outdoors. And I think that's quite impressive. So if you think about it, like maybe this is the forum for this aspect of it, this cool little conversation we're having that then touches the 500 people that are 200 people or however many it is. Maybe it doesn't have to be more people showing up for the meeting. Maybe it is legitimately getting this conversation out to other people so they can see realistic conversations of outdoors and so forth. And that is the venue in a fashion.
That very, very well could be as well too, Travis. And I mean, who knows? I'm sure if there's anybody out there that's watching these regularly are going, you know, oh, you know, Tony wasn't on there today. I really like listening to him. Or, you know, Travis, you know, kind of get that celebrity.
Shut up.
I got my favorite character out there. So, but, you know, or that moderator guy, he says, and a lot, you know, and he just drives me crazy. But so, anyway, yeah, I suppose, but I guess the only thing I was concerned about is how many times a week we'll talk about backpacking gear and have almost the same sort of, you know, now we could come up with new subjects for sure and kind of format it a little bit differently as well too. But
so I 100% agree. I think the basic of backpacking basics or the basics of surfing basics is phenomenal, getting people started. But then maybe it's, how do you plan your surfing trip? How do you plan your backpacking trip? Where do you get your reservation skills? How do you know what are the constraints to going backpacking in Yosemite? What are the constraints to going backpacking in Kings Canyon? Or I'm making this up, but what are the constraints?
No,
How do you through those constraints. That way it opens up the challenges of planning your trip, which yes, isn't as basic, but it's how you get out there and do it. Because yes, you can learn how to do all this stuff, but if you can't plan an actual trip that you can go on, maybe we start delving into those so we can learn about kayaking. We can learn how you planned the Zephyr trip for rafting. You learn how you plan the this, that, and the other thing. And therefore people can say, cool, I can start doing this stuff now.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, I think.
I agree with that, with your comment, Travis. Furthermore, when you talk about planning, I think about all the tools that are available to people that they use when planning trips, whether it's AllTrails or just the Garmin Minis, just devices and tools that people are still rather unfamiliar with or still don't know how to. So in addition to the planning part, it's using the tools effectively.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
I definitely think we can expand upon this pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Because I know that there's been some interest. Dave Ryan has mentioned about doing something with mountain bikes, and I think so has Jesse. And so we have other avenues that we can that we haven't even touched on. So there might be some good discussions that we could have there as well. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. So today got basically just kind of covering the basics of backpacking and quite a few videos. A lot of the expert advice videos and stuff, which are, I could do a lot of research and all this stuff and basically put it the same way, but they've got a presentation already put together with, so why reinvent the wheel kind of thing. So that's kind of the direction that I'm. Oh, look at that! Kyle said, "What about doing something on bike packing?" Look at that. Yeah, that sounds great. I would love that actually. I think that would be that'd be a great one. All right, yeah, let's get going, and obviously, so we're gonna get into backpacks. We're gonna talk a little bit about backpacks first. Travis, you and I especially, we've talked about, what's the best backpack out there. It's almost like the best hiking shoe. The customer's going to have to tell me, or, you're going to have to tell me whatever one's, it's all about fit and how it works for you and how it rides on your back and how those loads feel on your back and so forth. We're going to talk about, backpacks and some of the things to take into consideration is obviously I mentioned fit. Volume is going to be a big deal. And then you start looking at the features and then weight and durability is going to kind of come into play as well.
Hey, I'm Miranda with the REI Co-op. A pack can make or break your backpacking trip, and there are tons of awesome options out there right now. Let's take a second to geek out about packs. When choosing a pack, one of the first things you need to decide is the capacity. The capacity of pack is largely going to depend on the type of backpacker you are. For example, if you're an ultralight backpacker, you're probably carrying a lot less gear and you can get away with something much smaller. Whereas if you like to have some luxury, then you're probably going to want a larger pack. But generally speaking, if you are doing a weekend trip, you're looking at a pack like this one that's somewhere between 30 and 50 liters. This pack here is a 45-liter pack. These are great for weekend trips, for overnights, or for warm weather backpacking where you don't need to carry a lot of heavy gear. If you're looking for a multi-day pack, you're going to want something that's somewhere between 50 and 70 liters. This is my pack here, and it's a 60-liter pack. These are great for carrying some additional items, as well as layers, clothing, and more food and fuel. So this is a pretty common size pack, and it'll work for a multitude of different trips. If you're looking for something that is going to carry a lot of gear, you're looking at an extended trip pack. So something like this one here, which is 100 liters. Extended trip packs cover anything that's 70 liters and above. These bags are really designed to haul a ton of gear. So they're good for mountaineering or for extended winter backpacking where you're carrying a lot of heavy layers and gear. But they're also great for parents who are backpacking with children if they need to carry their kids' stuff in the pack as well. A quick note on ultralight backpacking. If you're looking to get your base weight, and that's the weight of your pack minus consumables, so all of your gear minus your food, your fuel, and your water. If you're looking to get that weight under 10 or 12 pounds, then you're probably looking at a pack that's a lot simpler and a lot lighter. Something more like this guy here. You can have your pack actually weigh a lot less on its own because the gear that you're putting inside is going to weigh less and it's going to be significantly smaller. Okay, so that's capacity. A pack's frame is designed to transfer weight from your shoulders and onto your hips for a more comfortable carry. There are two main types of pack frames right now, the internal frame and the external frame. This pack here has an internal frame, and this is certainly the more common type of pack nowadays, and they're definitely lighter than external frame packs. There are a few different ways that a pack may have this internal frame. This one has metal tubing that runs around the outside of the pack, but they may also have a metal V shape or even just a hard sheet of plastic, like this pack here. This is definitely not designed to carry as much weight as an internal frame pack like this, but it's a good option for ultralight backpackers, and it will still provide some structure. The other type of frame on a pack is an external frame pack. These used to be the go-to, but we now have an updated design with the internal frame packs. These bags are very durable, the frames are very durable, but they're not as common and you really don't find them very much anymore. These are a good option for people who want to lash a lot of gear to the outside of their pack. So they're a good choice for hunters or anyone who's going to be carrying unusually sized loads. And they're also just a really good throwback if you want to experience what backpacking used to be like. Some ultralight backpackers will choose to use frameless packs. While these don't do as good of a job of transferring the weight to your hips, you may not need that if you're carrying a lot less stuff. These are basically just rucksacks that have backpack straps attached. To offer some protection, you can add a closed cell foam sleeping pad on the inside of the pack, and this will protect your back from the gear inside and provide a little bit of structure. Keep in mind that any features that you add to your pack are also going to add weight. So you want to strike a balance between the ease of use of the pack and the additional weight that you're adding. There are a ton of different features that you may find on backpacks, so we're just going to cover a few of the pretty common ones. The first one is access. Most packs are going to have top loading access like this one. This is just a cinch cord that opens up and allows you to get to all of your gear. You may also find packs that have side zippers or U-zippers. This gives you access into the main compartment of the pack, so you can get items that are at the bottom or in the middle of the pack. This is a feature that I love. I think it's really easy. Some packs may also have detachable pieces that turn into day packs, like this one. This lid here has straps that come out, and then this can be taken off and used as a day pack for day hikes. Packs may also have this turn into a hip belt, or you may find packs that have a removable reservoir that comes out. This is a really awesome feature if you plan on backpacking in somewhere and then day hiking from wherever you're setting up camp. My pack has the side or the panel loading access, and then it also has a removable day pack, and these are two features that I love. Another really common feature is pockets. So packs may have pockets on the side for water bottles or two pockets on the hip for different items that you might want to stash. You can see this pack here has a water bottle side pocket that you can access while the bag is on your back. And then there's this shovel pocket in the front, which is great for stashing an extra layer. There also might be pockets that are in the lid or in the bottom of the lid, like this one has that here. Packs will also have lash points or daisy chains on the outside. This is for strapping sort of strange loads to the pack, or if you want to attach your crampons on the outside of your pack so they don't scratch up the inside. And then packs may also have tool attachment points for attaching ice axes, or this one has a spot for attaching trekking poles. That's just a couple of the features. There are a ton out there. Keep in mind that when you're looking at packs, you'll want to look for features that you believe will add value and avoid packs that have features that you don't think you want. Again, there's a ton out there. So that might be extra cushy hip belts, which you want. It might be a separate compartment for a sleeping bag, and just make a decision on what you find valuable and what you don't want in your pack. The most important thing about choosing a pack is finding one that fits you comfortably. Packs come in a variety of frame sizes or torso lengths that relate to your back size. When you come into a store, you can try on a variety of different packs since they're all going to fit a little bit differently. The best thing to do is to bring in your own pack if you already have one, or come in and have an REI specialist fit the pack for you. There's so much information on how to fit your pack, so we have an entire video about it, and we'll link that in the description below. Once you have a pack that fits you, you can use the straps to adjust the fit. There are also women-specific packs, and those are going to have a slightly different fit to them and different features, such as straps that cut out a little bit sooner or hip belts that provide a little bit more cushion and are a little bit larger. That's it for packs, and if you have any more questions, check out the video below or subscribe, and we'll see you guys out there.
So that was pretty good. There was, and just kind of touching on, you know, we were talking about size is a big one for me, you know, and I see this a lot, and they didn't really touch on it too much, is the type of back. A lot of people are really concerned about sweating and having that air, you know, being able to go along the backside. The more I backpack, the more I realize that for me, that becomes less and less of an issue, because I have never had a backpack on yet that I don't sweat. I mean, even if I'm not carrying a backpack, my back sweats. So it's just gonna happen. So I don't really go there too much. But it's kind of one of those things that you have to kind of listen to yourself, and then you have to sort of not overthink it too much too. What do you think, Travis?
I say the same thing with shoes. I always tell people, oh, my best friend says Hoka's are the best shoes in the world. I gotta get Hoka's. I'm like, I don't care what your best friend says. They fit on your feet. It's such an important part. Backpacking is the most independent thing you can do. You are legitimately carrying everything yourself. And if what you have on your back doesn't fit your body, you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying. I will not say you're doing it wrong too often, but you're doing it wrong if your gear doesn't fit on your body. I make a list of my backpacking gear I bring with me, and I look at it every time I go, and I unpack my bag, and I say, did I need that? Did I not need that? Am I overpacking? Am I underpacking? It's for a backpack fit. If it sucks, I know that if I go out, I'm so skinny that my hips will get rubbed. I'll get raspberries on my hips just because my packs tend to rub if I'm wearing a heavy bag. And I've tried everything to avoid it. I've tried every different bag, but now I'm just like, okay, I get raspberries on my hips sometimes. That's par for the course. So it's just figuring out what does work for you, and you know, it's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? She was talking about backpacking fit, and that's actually the next video too. So I wanted to throw that out there for that specific reason too.
I think fit's huge because I'm small. So for me, finding a pack that actually fits me is hard because my torso is unusually long. Like I'm between a small and a medium. So they're always like, do you want a medium? Do you want a small? So for me, finding a pack that actually fits correctly is hard.
Yeah.
We took an old insulate sleeping, no, that's not true. We took a synthetic sleeping bag and we cut baffles out of the sleeping bag and we turned it into a belt for her hips. So it actually she has a sleeping bag belt that she can wear on some of her backpacks that don't fit her hips well. And it gives her more padding on her hips, and it worked pretty well.
I have a question. My question is, do you find that there's a relationship between proper fit and a brand? To your point about Hoka's, Travis, for example, do you find that some people will find better fits in, let's say, an Osprey, and why that is, and why a Gregory might fit somebody better than an Osprey?
Correct. Yeah. So 100%. So with Gregory, I love Gregory packs because they have usually, and they have changed it a little bit. The Gregory packs have a huge lumbar pad. And as a person with a very small rear end and or small hips, the lumbar pad makes up for my lack of hips or rump. But it supports into my back. Therefore, I'm not carrying it directly on my hip bones. I'm carrying it on my lumbar, which is a much nicer fit and ride for my body. But I look at people that have larger hips. I remember when Osprey used to make the anti-gravity or zero gravity, whatever it was called, anti-gravity hip belts that literally kind of cinched and hugged around you really tightly. You had to pull them apart to get them around your body. That worked really good for people with really big, strong hips. I couldn't wear that pack. It just did not, my hips don't support my weight well enough. So for me, Gregory had the lumbar support that I love. Ospreys are challenging for me, as well as Deuter has the lumbar support as well. Deuter makes a really good pack that I think Gregory stole the design originally from Deuter. And hey, speaking of Deuter, but Gregory, I think, stole the design from Deuter, and they took the lumbar pack out and they used it for that, and it works really well. So really, yes, there is a lot of difference of who makes the bag and what they're using it for.
Yeah, and I think it comes back down to an individual, like you said, Travis, and trying them on between the two different brands and between their different models of those brands, and to try to dial in that fit. So
I also
Yeah.
know that for my pack, you can, for some brands, you can take the hip belt and the straps and actually get smaller or bigger sizes according to, which is beneficial. That's
Yeah.
what I did for my Gregory pack.
Yeah, and that's a nice feature because so it's not just one size fits all kind of thing.
Hey everybody, I'm Katie.
And I'm Miranda, and we're going to talk about how to fit your pack for backpacking. So you're always welcome to come into an REI store and then have one of the experts there fit your pack for you, whether you bought it 5 years ago or you bought it that afternoon. But if you're looking for some tips on how to size and fit your pack when you're at home, here they are.
All right, so the first place to start is size of the backpack. What we're gonna do here is fit a backpack for Miranda, and backpack sizes go off of torso length. So we have two landmarks we're looking for. Number one is your iliac crest. So right at the top of your hip bones, right below the squish, you can set your hands right on top of your bones. So if you go ahead and do that, that's your iliac crest. And if you turn around for me, Miranda, you can draw a line right between the iliac crest on either side to the middle of the spine, and that's gonna be your first landmark. The other landmark we're looking for to measure torso size is, Miranda, if you look down, the C7 vertebrae, which is the one that pops out when you put your chin to your chest. So you find it looking down, but Miranda, if you go ahead and look up, you'll want to make sure you measure with your head in a neutral position. So between these two landmarks, right here, we measure top to bottom, and for Miranda, her torso length is 16 inches. Got it. So with torso length there, you can go ahead and check the sizing charts for each backpack manufacturer on rei.com. So now that you've used the sizing charts to find the right size of pack, it's time to get fitting on the pack. So we're using Miranda's backpack today. Let's go ahead and pop this on. When you're first putting your backpack on, you want to make sure you have a little bit of weight in it. 15 or 20 pounds is a good approximation of how that pack is going to sit on you on the trail. But when you put the weight in, close the backpack up and make sure you buckle it closed so that that weight isn't running around on you while you're trying to adjust everything. The other thing is, before we get to fitting the pack, you're going to want to make sure all of the straps on the back end of the pack here are all loosened up so that we can do that adjustment once it's on.
Cool. So now that I have my pack on, this is my personal pack, so I know that it fits me really well. But if you're walking through a pack for the first time, you're going to want to start at the bottom of the pack and then work your way up with the straps. And this is actually the best way to put your pack on every single time you put it on your body. So first thing we're going to start with is my hip belt. So I want to make sure that this hip belt and the padding is centered on my hip bones. So I'm going to go ahead and buckle that, and then tighten it down. Ideally, when you're fitting a pack, you want about 80% of your weight on your hips so that your legs are carrying most of the weight rather than your shoulders carrying it. So your hip belt's probably gonna need to be pretty tight in order to do that. The next step is to tighten your shoulder straps. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab these straps, there we go, and pull them down and back. And then, a little too tight, like that. And then we'll do the load lifters. So load lifters are these straps here that basically pull the weight of the pack, the top of the pack forward, so you're not like careening backwards while you're wearing the bag. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten those just a little bit, just to a point where the weight starts to come forward, but not so tight that it's crunching on your back like that. And then the last step is your sternum strap. So the tendency of the sternum strap is to want to tighten it a whole bunch, but you actually just want this to be buckled closed and with a little bit of tension on it, just so you're pulling weight away from your shoulders. Again, we're looking for having about 80% of the weight on our hips, so my legs are carrying it rather than on my shoulders. Your legs are a heck of a lot stronger than your shoulders are, and you want to have only 20% up here so that you're not creating a bunch of tension in your shoulders. Now that I have the pack on and fitting comfortably, I'm going to walk around for about 20 minutes or so. This is going to give you a good idea of how the pack will feel on trail, because if it doesn't feel good after 20 minutes, it won't feel good after 10 miles. So that's kind of what we're looking for here. Obviously, you want the pack to be comfortable, but there are also some visual cues you can look for that will help determine whether the pack is a right fit or not, and Katie's going to talk through those now.
You bet. So if you're doing this at home, you can have a friend look for these or stand next to a mirror so that you can see them. But if you take a look up here, you'll notice that the shoulder strap comes up and around Miranda's shoulder and meets into the back of the backpack. At this point, about an inch or two lower than the height of her shoulder here. You'll also notice that there's not too much of a gap between her actual shoulder and the strap there. The other thing you can look for is the angle of the load lifter straps. So this strap right here should be at about a 45-degree angle. If that strap looks like it's angled really steeply or super shallow, it could be an indicator that you need to adjust your torso within the size of your backpack. So some backpacks allow you to slide the torso component up or down by a little bit, even within one particular size, and it's just more fine-tuning for you so your backpack really feels good.
So those are some visual cues. Some other things you can look out for are pressure points. So if you have pressure points in the front of your shoulders, it probably means that your shoulder straps are too tight. Loosen those. If you get pressure points in the back, it probably means that your load lifters are too tight. Loosen those up. You're probably going to have some fine tuning on trail within the pack, so don't be deterred by a little bit of adjustment that needs to happen even within those first 20 minutes. Another thing to keep in mind is that while these measurements for torso length are a really good barometer for what size you need, you may have to do additional adjustments within the pack. So like Katie mentioned, there are some packs that have adjustable torso length, but you can also swap out the hip belt or the shoulder straps on some packs to get different sizes. This will just give you further adjustment as needed on the pack.
All right, so you've got your pack fit. It's feeling pretty good on you. One last thing to remember is taking your pack off. So remember when we were originally fitting it, when we're putting the pack on, you buckle hip belt first and then move up to the shoulder straps and onward. When you take your pack off, you're gonna go the exact opposite direction. So sternum strap gets unbuckled first, shoulder straps get loosened second, hip belt gets loosened and then unbuckled last.
It's a really good idea to loosen your hip belt before you unbuckle it. And that's just so that when you put the pack on, you don't have to try and struggle with buckling it. You get a lot more pull from the straps than you do just trying to muscle it closed. If you have any other questions about backpacking, especially how to pick a pack, you can check out our video here. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit subscribe below, and we'll see you later.
All right, so yeah, so that touched on quite a few of the things that, well, we were talking about, how the importance of fit, and you know, we've kind of all run through this dozens of times, if not hundreds of times, you know, with people in the store, and so it's a nice share. I think it's a nice share. It's a good basic understanding of how the anatomy of these packs work and so forth too. So obviously a lot of different shapes, sizes, tints, colors, which is kind of funny because you think color, it's kind of funny, but I've had tints returned because they didn't like the color. So apparently it is important to a lot of people.
Sorry, that was me.
It didn't match his outfit.
What's that?
It didn't match his outfit.
Yeah, it kind of sort of clashed with the surroundings and didn't look good in the photos that would match the outfit. But a lot of different shapes and sizes, as you can kind of see right here. And so, you know, and one of the biggest things is obviously season. When we talk about 3 season, 4 season, and the importance of, you know, where are you going to go with this, and what sort of versatility do you want with it? Do you want to be able to snow camp with it? Is weight the biggest issue? Some people, it's just size. And so it's, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. For me, durability. I mean, I want a lightweight tent, but I also don't want to have to baby it every time I pull it out of the bag, thinking that I'm going to snag it and rip it open. So going to be careful with that. But let's see what they have to say a little bit about more.
Hey, Miranda here. We at the Co-op love a good backpacking tent. It's your portable home in the outdoors. But with so many options to choose from, how do you know which one is right for you? Well, let's talk about backpacking tents. The first thing to consider when choosing a tent is capacity, or how many people plan on being in the tent. If you only ever plan on solo backpacking, you can get away with a much smaller tent like this one than if you think you'll be sharing your tent with multiple people. Tent manufacturers will let you know how many people a tent is designed for right in the name of the tent. So for example, this is the REI Co-op Half Dome 1 Plus, which is a 1-person tent. And this here is a Half Dome 2. Behind me we have a 3-person as well as a 4-person version of this tent. While this number is good for getting a general idea of how many people will fit in the tent, there is no standard across manufacturers. So while this Half Dome is a 2-person tent, this Big Agnes Fly Creek is also a 2-person tent. So obviously there's a big difference in size. You may also want to choose a tent that's one larger than the number of people you plan on having in it, in case you like to have a lot of extra space, or if you plan on backpacking with a dog or with small children. The next thing to consider is seasonality, or when you plan on using the tent. 3-season tents are the most common types of backpacking tents, like this one here. This is a great choice for most backpacking trips, and a lot of people will use them even for camping, which is what I do. These tents use a light pole structure as well as lightweight materials, and they have a lot of mesh for ventilation. With their Rainfly, they're totally waterproof, and when they're staked up properly, they'll withstand most summer storms. However, you can get the wind coming up underneath the Rainfly and going through the mesh, so they're not a great choice for winter environments or really cold weather environments. That brings us to mountaineering tents. Mountaineering tents use a robust pole system with a lot of intersections, which is going to give the tent its strength. And they also have really durable materials, which are designed to take heavy snowfall and high winds. They have a lot less mesh than you see on a 3-season tent, and all of the mesh is closable. This will help trap the warm air inside the tent, which is going to keep it a few degrees warmer. This tent doesn't currently have its Rainfly on, but with the Rainfly, it has even more durability against the heavy winds. These tents are really great for mountaineering as well as for high alpine conditions. While these tents are good for the heavy rain or heavy snowfall and a lot of storm systems, they are just too heavy and too bulky for most 3-season backpackers. So this is on the heavier side of 3-season tents, and it weighs about 5 pounds, whereas this tent weighs nearly 10 pounds. If you're looking for something kind of in between those two, there are extended season tents, like this tent here. This one has slightly more poles, or a few more poles than you see on the 3-season tent, and a slightly heavier structure. It has a lot more mesh than you see on a mountaineering tent, but it's all closable. So you can again trap that warm air inside, which is something that you can't do with a 3-season tent. This tent weighs in at about 6 pounds, or a little over 6 pounds. And that's seasonality. Once you've decided what size and style of tent you want, the next thing you want to do is strike a balance between weight and comfort, or livability of the tent. When you look at a tent, there'll be 2 different weights listed. The first is the minimum trail weight, and then you have the packaged weight of the tent. The minimum trail weight is going to include the tent body, the Rainfly, and the poles, all the things that you need just to set it up. The packaged weight adds in the stuff sack, the pole bag, as well as the stakes and the pole repair or any guy lines that come with it. I generally don't carry the stuff sacks with me, but I'm definitely going to carry the stakes as well as the repair, so your trail weight might be somewhere in between these 2 numbers. If you're splitting up the tent with friends, so you're backpacking with other people, you want to aim for around 3 pounds per person. Ultralight backpackers, however, are going to go for something a lot lighter, closer to 1 pound per person. This is just the weight of the tent though. You don't want to simply consider weight when you're picking a tent. When you start cutting weight, there are a few trade-offs that you need to be aware of. Durability is one concern. Heavier weight materials are generally going to be more durable than lightweight materials. So lightweight tents are more prone to snags and tears and may require some more maintenance on trail. Generally speaking, they're not going to withstand as much abuse as heavier materials will. Another thing that will affect the weight of a tent is whether or not it is freestanding. Freestanding tents, as the name implies, will stand on their own when they're set up with the poles. So you can see here on this tent, the poles go to all corners of the tent, which allows it to stand on its own. Non-freestanding tents, like this one here, will require stakes to stand up. Tents like this require easy ground to stake, and if you take the stakes out of the tent, it'll just fall over. A great thing about freestanding tents is that you can set this up in a pinch and climb inside if bad weather rolls in. You'll still want to stake it out for maximum ventilation as well as strength, but it's a little bit easier of a tent setup. There are also semi-freestanding tents like this one here. So this tent will stand on its own with just the pole system. You can see in the front you have poles that go to the front 2 corners. But you'll want to stake the back 2 corners of the tent and utilize the fly to guy out the sides to maximize the interior space of the tent, which leads us into livability. Not all tents are equally roomy and comfortable. Some tents will skimp on features to save weight, while others have a ton of extras to make them comfortable. One of these features is having dual entry or 2-door entry into a tent. This is especially great if you're sharing a tent. It gives you and your buddy your own entryway and exit, so you're not crawling over each other for midnight bathroom breaks. In addition to having 2 doors, some tents will have 2 vestibules or covered outdoor spaces that allow you to store your boots as well as your gear to keep from cluttering up the inside of the tent. This tent has 2 doors as well as 2 vestibules, and I have the back one set up, and then the front one here is just rolled up. If I did want to use this for storing my gear, I could unhook this and then stake it out, and I'd have a lot of extra space. Another important thing you'll want to consider when choosing a tent is the interior space of the tent. If you look at the specs online, you'll see the dimensions of the floor plan as well as the peak height of a tent, but that's not going to tell you the whole story. Some tents will have sloping sidewalls, which drastically cuts down on the headspace but also saves you some weight. Let's show you an example of that. This tent has those sloping sidewalls, so you can see that the sides of the tent come up to a point. This cuts down on weight, but it drastically reduces the amount of headspace that you have. This is a really nice ultralight 2-person backpacking tent, and while it's perfect for sleeping, it's not great for hanging out. Other tents, like this one, will have vertical sidewalls. This gives you a lot more interior room and headspace in the tent, and it allows you to sit up in tent, which can be really nice if you're reading a book. A few other features that you get with tents are pockets. Remember, with any of these things, you're adding a little bit of weight to the tent, but it can be really nice for organizing your gear. So this tent has pockets on the sides, as well as a pocket up here for storing the door when it's rolled back. And then you also have pockets for headlamps or anything else. Again, all of these extra features are going to add some weight, so it's a trade-off between the livability and the weight of the tent. Once you've chosen your tent, we recommend getting a footprint. Footprints are tent specific, and they're designed to protect the bottom of your tent from rocks and will extend its life. If you want some more information, please subscribe below or check out either of our 2 videos. We'll see you guys later. Oh, and remember, if you want any help setting up a tent, go into any REI, and they'll be happy to set something up for you so you can check it out.
Covered a lot of good stuff. Yeah, kind of touched on everything a little bit. I mean, I don't know what else I could really add to that. So, got any thoughts, Travis?
I do. I actually, it's technically Athens 10. She got it like numerous years ago, but I use a 6 Moon design tent that is a trekking pole tent, which is probably my favorite lightweight tent that works really well and takes up 0 space in my bag, and it weighs nothing. It's awesome, but it really does depend on if you can get those stakes in the ground, because if I can't stake out that tent, it's absolutely useless. So I have to be very, very mindful when I'm hiking, and it does play a big role. I can set that thing up in like 3 minutes, but at the same time, if I can't get the damn stakes in the ground, I've definitely tied to some trees that were way far away just to make sure I can keep that thing on the ground, because it doesn't work if you don't get those stakes in the ground.
Right.
Yeah, so that's
And I
all.
think that comes back to a lot of things too, and it's just planning. What type of where are you going to be spending your nights? Temperatures, conditions. Is it going to be very exposed? Is it going to be rocky terrain? Is it going to be situations like where these tents were set up, where it's sort of ideal? Are they going to possibly be snow? Is it going to be muddy? There's a lot of things to sandy. There's a lot to come in. Because we really didn't talk about stakes too much. I mean, there's some great backpacking spots that aren't beaches.
Yeah.
So doing sand stakes and things like that. So a lot of things to take into consideration. And to be honest with you, I think that that's part of the fun of it, is trying to think of all the situations and prepare for them. And unfortunately, you don't always nail them all, and so
No,
But-
but that's where your stories come from. That's where stories come from.
is
I love
exactly where the stories
I love
come
the
from.
stories.
yeah, exactly right. All right, yeah, let's talk about sleeping bags. And I actually have a couple in here. One, because I'm very partial to Feathered Friends, even though we don't sell them, but just because I've had a lot of history with them, and but mainly because of the sort of the expedition stuff, the higher altitude sort of type of outings and things like that when you're talking about Denali or the Himalayas and some of these Andes and things like that. So a lot to do there, but some things to consider, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. The insulation, obviously, couple the choices here are going to be down or synthetic. When you're talking about loft, you're talking about warmth, you're talking about money, and then it's talking about design and outer materials and different types of uses and features and stuff. And so let's just a little second here, a short one.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and I'm here to talk to you about Feathered Friends sleeping bags. With 45 styles and a selection of sizes, we know that choosing the right sleeping bag can be a little overwhelming. While there isn't a single sleeping bag that can do it all, with the following tips, we'll help you find the perfect bag for your next adventure. When shopping for your down sleeping bag, there are 3 main characteristics to keep in mind: temperature rating, shape, and length. First, let's take a look at temperature rating. A sleeping bag filled with goose down will give you the most warmth for the least weight. Ideally, you want to choose a sleeping bag that is rated lower than the coldest weather you expect to encounter. Though, if you're a particularly cold sleeper, you may want to consider choosing a sleeping bag that is rated 10 to 20 degrees colder than you might anticipate. Please keep in mind that temperature ratings assume you have the appropriate sleeping pad, use a tent, and are well fed and hydrated. The temperature rating in degrees Fahrenheit is at the end of the product name. Our sleeping bag lineup can be broken down to the following temperature ranges. 3-season sleeping bags are rated 30 degrees Fahrenheit down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. These sleeping bags are our lightest sleeping bags. We offer most of the 3-season sleeping bags in 2 different fabrics, Schiller Nanosphere and Pertex Endurance Ultralight. Winter sleeping bags are rated from 0 degrees Fahrenheit down to minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, we introduce waterproof and breathable Pertex Shield fabrics for additional weather protection. Expedition bags are designed for the coldest conditions on Earth. They are rated minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit all the way down to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. These sleeping bags are suitable for extreme weather conditions and high altitude expeditions. Perhaps you're headed out on a trip that you've never been on before. How cold does it get? Dig around and usually you can get a baseline temperature. This chart shows some general temperature ranges in some popular regions. Now let's look at sleeping bag shapes. The shape of a sleeping bag is particularly important for comfort. Ideally, the bag will fit snug enough for maximum thermal efficiency, yet roomy enough to provide a comfortable night's sleep. A mummy shape is the most efficient design because it contours to the shape of your body. This minimizes the amount of dead space and leaves an optimum amount of warmed air inside the bag. A rectangular or semi-rectangular bag will appeal to those who want some extra kicking room or want the option of a double bag. Bags designed for women have a bit more room in the hip area, less in the shoulder area, and are 3 to 9 inches shorter than a regular length bag. Because these bags are a bit shorter, they also appeal to many men. Feathered Friends also offers double bags and a line of specialty bags. For each of our sleeping bags, we provide the girth dimensions, or shape, as a series of 3 numbers. For example, this diagram shows a bag that measures out at 60 inches, 52 inches, and 38 inches. These measurements are for the interior circumference at the shoulders, hips, and feet. Measurements for each one of our Feathered Friends sleeping bags can be found on our website. Last, let's look at length. The proper length sleeping bag will ensure that there's enough room to feel comfortable while not sacrificing heat retention. A regular length bag will fit a person up to 6 feet tall. A long length bag will fit a person up to 6 feet 6 inches tall. For winter use or expeditions, some people prefer to have extra length to accommodate a water bottle or boot liners. In the women's series, a small will fit a person up to 5 foot 3 inches, a medium will fit a person up to 5 foot 9 inches. If you have any other questions, come talk to the experts at Feathered Friends, or go to www.featheredfriends.com.
So some good basic information there too. I kind of like, just some of their extreme bags, and it's just kind of fun just even contemplating a 65 below zero rated bag, So,
I don't want to be in that weather.
no. I remember back in the day when I was working for them, there was and I think there was like 700 or 750 power fill down that we were using at the time. Now it's gone up to 850 or something, but they were saying that 11 inches was the maximum amount of loft that you could get, because it would actually start compressing on itself above that. But they would get 11 inches of loft, which is just astonishing, Yeah, right. Pretty impressive. All right, yeah, let's move on to another. This one's a little bit more information of what.
My favorite way to end a long day of backpacking is cozying up in my sleeping bag. With so many options.
I'm sorry, Travis. When I cut you off?
No,
it's
you
me, Kyle.
I was just saying, it seems like at some point you're talking about 11 inches, it starts compressing itself. That's not going to be a sudden point. It seems like there's going to be kind of a gradual curve where the more down you add, the less benefit you're getting per additional weight of down at some point.
Yeah.
And then you're
Right.
going to get to the point where adding more is having zero benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
11 inches might be when you hit zero benefit, but even before that, the more you add, the benefit from that additional fill weight is going to be less and less the more you add.
Yeah, and I think if I can remember right, I think it would at up to 11 inches, it was you were still getting positive benefit out of it, but 11 inches is when it's just basically staying there. So you add more. That was sort of the point. But you could get up to 11 inches of down. But again, if you added, say, another 6 ounces down to that bag and measured it out, well, you've added 6 ounces, but now you're at, now you're still at 11 inches of loft. So I believe it was 11 inches. And of course, it's been quite a while ago, remembering all the stats and stuff. But your loft would still be there up into 11 inches, and that was kind of the cutoff point. But that's a good point too. You can get to where it's like, well, yeah, I've got amazing amount of insulation in there, but it's not really benefiting you any addition, because you're looking for that dead air space is what it's all about. So, but that's a good point. That's a good point. Right on.
How do you know which one is right for you? Let's talk about sleeping bags. Before we get started, let's just talk for a second about weight. When choosing a sleeping bag, you'll want to strike a balance between the weight, the warmth, and the cost of the sleeping bag. You could get the coziest, roomiest, warmest sleeping bag out there, but you'd probably end up carrying a few extra pounds. And we all know that every ounce counts when you're backpacking. So you want to strike a good balance so that you get something that's going to be warm enough, but also isn't going to weigh too much. In the same respect, before you buy the lightest weight sleeping bag possible, remember that your enjoyment on trail is super important. So you'll want to get some features that will still make the bag comfortable for you. Okay, let's dive in. When deciding what temperature of bag you need, you'll want to take a look at what season you plan on backpacking in. Of course, these temperatures vary widely depending on how you sleep, and also seasonal temperatures vary depending on what area you're backpacking in. But for the most part, if you plan on backpacking in the summer, you'll be looking for a bag that's rated for 30 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. This bag here is rated at 36 degrees. These are great for warm weather camping, and they're also sometimes used for festival camping. If you're going to be backpacking in the early spring or the late fall, you'll want a bag that's rated somewhere between 10 and 30 degrees. This bag here is rated for 21 degrees Fahrenheit. These bags are sometimes referred to as 3-season sleeping bags as they cover a wide variety of temperatures. For backpacking in the winter, you'll want to look for a bag like this one, rated at 10 degrees and lower. This bag here is rated for 10 degrees. These are really winter weight bags, and there's a variety of temperatures, so find one that'll work for your winter camping. When you look at the temperature rating of a bag, you'll see 2 numbers listed. The higher number is referred to as the comfort rating, and this is the temperature at which the average cold sleeper will be comfortable. Because women tend to sleep colder than men, this is sometimes referred to as the women's rating. This lower number is the lower limit rating. This is the temperature at which the average warm sleeper will be comfortable. Because men tend to sleep warmer than women, this is sometimes referred to as the men's rating. One cool thing about this rating system is that these numbers are provided by an independent organization. That means that you can actually compare the temperatures on bags across brands to decide which one is right for you. Keep in mind that while these numbers provide you with a good general idea of the temperature of the bag, they are of course based on the average person. So you'll want to take in all different factors, such as how comfortable you are in certain temperatures, what you've eaten that day, your metabolism, your sleeping pad, all of that's going to factor into how comfortable the bag is for you. Okay, let's move on to insulation. There are 2 main types of sleeping bag insulation, and those are down, like this bag here, and synthetic, like this one. Down sleeping bags are filled with feathers, whereas synthetic bags will use insulation that looks something like this. The main pro of using a down sleeping bag is that it will pack small and weigh less than a synthetic bag. This means that if you have a 20-degree synthetic bag sitting next to a 20-degree down bag, the down bag will pack smaller and weigh less than the 20-degree synthetic bag. One thing to note is that synthetic sleeping bags will keep you warm even if they get wet, whereas down, when it gets wet, is not going to do very much to insulate. There are down bags that have been treated with a water repellency, but if they get soaked fully through, they're not going to provide very much insulation. This does, however, come at a cost. Down sleeping bags are generally considerably more expensive than synthetic. Some people may have allergies to down, so if that's the case, it's a good idea to go ahead and get a synthetic bag. If you're concerned about using down for ethical reasons, you can look for traceable, ethically sourced down, or just go ahead and get synthetic. There's one more thing to talk about with down bags, and that is fill power. Without getting too deep into it, fill power is essentially a measurement of how well the down will loft and trap your body heat. The higher the number of fill power, the better the down will compress and the lighter that it will be. Both of these sleeping bags are rated for 20 degrees, but this sleeping bag has a 600 fill power and this one has 850 fill power. You can see that there's an obvious size difference between the two, and this bag weighs about a pound less. There are 2 main shapes of backpacking sleeping bags. Those are mummy bags and semi-rectangular bags. Mummy bags, like this one here, are shaped like a mummy. So they're narrow at the feet and then wider here at the shoulders. Mummy bags are the most efficient sleeping bags for backpacking, as once you're inside the bag, there's not a ton of extra air, so the bag will help retain your warmth a little bit better. These bags, however, don't give you a ton of space to move around, so generally speaking, if you want to sleep on your side, you'll have to roll over with the mummy bag rather than inside it. Semi-rectangular bags covers a wide range of bag types and shapes, but these bags could be anything from bags that have a more rectangular footbox, bags that have a separate quilt, additional ventilation, things like that. Semi-rectangular bags give you a lot more interior space for comfort, but again, they're not as efficient as mummy bags because you have a lot more air inside the bag that you have to heat. You may have heard people talk about rectangular sleeping bags. These are essentially big quilts that fold over, and they're great for car camping, but they're just too bulky and heavy for backpacking. There are a variety of different features that you may find on sleeping bags. Some of them are really common, like draft tubes. Those will help keep cold air out of the zipper. Other features are less common, such as a pillow pocket like this one, for storing your pillow, or a stash pocket at the shoulder. I have a friend who loves using this pocket for keeping earplugs, and that way they never get lost. Keep in mind that every feature you add to a bag is probably going to add some weight, so you want to pick features that you find valuable. There are women's specific sleeping bags, and it's important to note that there are differences beyond just the color. Since women tend to sleep colder than men, these sleeping bags will have more insulation in the torso and at the feet. Women's sleeping bags also have more space through the hips to accommodate women's bodies. Another cool thing is that women's bags will generally have the rating for the comfort rating listed on the bag. Women's bags tend to also have a right-handed zipper, so you can actually zip right-handed zipper sleeping bags and left-handed zipper sleeping bags together if they're compatible. The best way to tell what sleeping bag is going to be right for you is by coming to the store and trying a couple out. So if you want more tips on backpacking, check out our videos here and please subscribe below. See you later.
All right. So kind of running over a little bit on time. I've just got one more little video that I was going to throw out there on sleeping pads. And then unless anybody's got another comment or anything that they want to add on that. These videos are really good. They're really touching on a lot of just the basic stuff. And, you know, any more details than that is just, I think you're going to kind of almost develop those on your own just through experience and having more in-depth conversations with, you know, your backpacking partners and so forth. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get this one started and get finished up. So obviously there's a bunch of different types of sleeping pads, a lot of things to take into consideration. But this kind of gets into a few details.
For the sake of both comfort and warmth, sleeping pads are crucial to getting a good night's rest in the backcountry. But how do you know which one's right for you? Let's talk about how to choose backpacking sleeping pads. When choosing a sleeping pad, there are three main factors that you'll want to consider, and those are comfort, weight, and insulation. Comfort generally comes from thicker, cushier sleeping pads, but you can gauge this by trying out a couple. You can do that at your local REI. Weight is pretty self-explanatory, which leads us to insulation. Most manufacturers will use a number called an R value to gauge how well their pads resist heat transfer from your body into the ground. The higher the R value, the more insulation the sleeping pad provides. A sleeping pad is a crucial part of your sleep system, and your sleeping bag alone won't provide enough warmth without a proper sleeping pad. So the first type of pad we're going to talk about are air pads. These are pretty self-explanatory. You blow air into them either with your mouth or with a lightweight pump, and then that's your mattress for the night. These are very thick and comfortable while still being lightweight, and most of them are packable, about to the size of a water bottle. They also come in a wide range of insulation options. So just as an example, this pad here has an R value of under 1, so it's truly a summer weight sleeping pad. And then this one has an R value of 5.7, so it's great for winter camping. Air pads provide insulation by having extra layers in between the exterior. So that might be an insulation layer and or some sort of reflective layer. You can also adjust the firmness on an air pad by allowing some air out of the valve. Like I said, these pads are lightweight and compact, which comes with an automatic increase in price. You'll also need to keep an eye out for sticks or other sharp objects, as they are easy to puncture. But most air pads will come with a lightweight patch kit, and they're very easy to repair in the field. Some material on air pads can also be crinkly, so that's something to take a listen for if you are a light sleeper. Also, side sleepers sometimes find these to be not as comfortable because their hips will touch the ground. These are a great option for backpackers that are looking to minimize weight while maximizing comfort and packability on the trail. And most lightweight backpackers will choose to use an air pad. I have an air pad and I love it. Self-inflating pads use an open cell foam to provide structure as well as insulation. I have a cutaway piece here of what a self-inflating pad looks like. And you can see that if you were to store this, you'd roll it up and that will compress all the air out. But then if you were to open the valve, this sucks all the air back in and the pad self-inflates. Generally speaking, you'll probably have to blow some air into this to get it to its maximum comfort level, but they're pretty hassle-free. Self-inflating pads are comfortable and they provide a lot of insulation. They're also a really good choice for people who want something kind of a middle of the road in terms of cost, and they're really comfortable for certain types of sleepers, such as side sleepers. These are a bit bulkier and they're heavier than their air pad counterparts, and they are prone to getting punctures just like air pads. Again, they're very easy to repair in the field. These are a great choice for backpackers who are looking for a little bit of extra comfort and don't mind the slight add in bulk and weight. The last type of pad we're going to talk about are closed cell foam pads. These are the large rolled or folded pads that you see strapped to the exterior of people's packs. These use a dense foam that doesn't need to be inflated and therefore can't be popped or really destroyed at all. You can see that this pad here has taken quite a lot of use and abuse, and obviously they still work just fine. These are lightweight, they're inexpensive, and they're basically indestructible, and I like that you can use them as a sit pad at camp. They aren't, however, the most comfortable of pads, and they are pretty bulky, so you will need to strap them to the exterior of your pack to carry them. These are a popular choice for ultralight backpackers or thru hikers for their ease of use and their durability. And then some people will also use them in conjunction with another type of pad to add some warmth as well as comfort. Some sleeping pads also have a women-specific version, and there are more differences beyond just the color. And that's demonstrated here with these two. This orange pad is a unisex pad, and you can see where all the dots are. Those represent holes that are punched out of the foam to cut down on weight. Because women tend to need more insulation in their core and at their feet, this women's version of the pad has fewer holes cut out at the torso and at the feet. Women's specific pads also have a slightly different shape than unisex pads, and they tend to be shorter, so they're a good choice for shorter backpackers as well. If you want some more information on how to choose gear or anything else about backpacking, check out our videos and please subscribe below. We'll see you guys out there.
All right. That's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. Kind of covered, probably 99% of the questions that that we would normally get in the store, and because it is money, weight, and then comfort, and depending on where you're going to go and where you're going to be using them.
I said that for every single piece of equipment. You have 3 options in gear: cheap, light, and durable. You got to pick 2.
Yeah.
Cheap, light, and durable. Pick 2.
I love the Travis rule. I love that. Yeah, for sure. And
I have a quick question. Is there
For
a
the sake of both
situation
comfort
where
and warmth, sleeping pads are
Sorry.
crucial to getting a good night's rest in the backcountry.
Go ahead.
were you going to present another video, or was that?
No, that was
Okay.
that was a mix up on my part.
It's all right. Is there a situation where a higher R value sleeping pad is an undesirable? So if someone had money, yeah, I didn't think so. No, I'm seeing Travis' head nod. So if someone had the money to buy one pad, you would typically recommend a higher R value, even if it's going to be a warm summer in which
Correct.
they're going to use it, right?
It's gonna insulate you from whatever's happening. It's giving you, so higher R value is always better. Even if you're like, it's just gonna give you more insulation in general. There's no downfall to it. It's not gonna make you overheat by any means. It's a barrier between you and a different temperature.
Great. So
Yeah,
the only
I
thing
think-
there. Oh, go ahead.
No,
Dave.
I was going to say, Sam, the only thing that I could think is if you really start thinking about it, it's like, well, you're never going to camp somewhere where you really need that big a high R value. And so you just spend a bunch of money for something that you're not going to, but that would, that's a reach, so.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be like cost and weight. There's probably more weight added to that higher R value to create the insulation. So those are the two areas.
Potentially. I mean,
Potentially.
I have a Big Agnes Rapide, and it's a 5.6 R value, and it weighs nothing. It literally is maybe 10 ounces, maybe. I don't even think it's 10 ounces. It's light as can be, so I don't think it matters that much.
I think it's less weight and bulkiness. So it would matter for like the most extreme, like ultralight people who are using like a 20-liter bag or something ridiculous. But most average people, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Like they aren't that much heavier, but they don't roll down as much. Like my 7 R value XPED rolls down to like 3 times the size of my like 3.4 pad, my
Mhm.
Big Agnes. So
Yeah. That's
She mentioned it in the video, but I try to emphasize it a lot more, is people don't realize that your sleeping pad is almost more important than your sleeping bag. You lose more heat through transference to the ground. The ground is trying to be the same temperature as you are. That might mean that it's going to suck all your warmth out just to make it as warm as you are, because it's jealous of you. So if you can find a way to keeping it from sucking your energy out, you're doing better. So the sleeping pad is almost more important than your sleeping bag.
Well, Travis, that's a real good point, because, we always think about the outside air temperature and the ratings of these bags and everything. But if you really start contemplating all this loft and synthetic down, all whatever it is, you're compressing that down to nothing underneath you, with
Right.
just your body weight. And so you've got to look for something else that's going to step in and keep at least that half of your body warm. And so it's not really addressed as much or as with as much importance, but that's a very, very good point. You've got to have, if you're after a really high quality sleeping bag, and then you just pour something into a real cheaply made, or you don't have very much insulation as far as your sleeping pad, you really kind of aren't really serving yourself very well.
Sam made a comment earlier and asked a question about how you stay warm in the winter and carrying a 0 degree or negative 20 degree sleeping bag. I have camped in, I'm not exaggerating, negative 40 degree temperatures in a 0 degree sleeping bag, because I slept with a closed-celled sleeping pad and a foam sleeping pad, and the combination of the two of that was able to keep me warm and comfortable. And I had my clothing on underneath in my sleeping bag, water bottles that were warmed up before I went to bed. I ate a bunch of food before I went to bed, and I slept incredibly warm. So it is that sleep system. It is not just I spent so much money on a sleeping bag, it's going to keep me warm. No, I did some work to do that, but I was sleeping comfortably in a negative 40 degree sleep night. There's a word.
Very good. Yeah, it's exactly true. It's exactly true. All right. Well, there we go. Like I said, we went over a little long on this one. There's a lot of information. I think we're going to get into our next meet. We're going to talk a little bit about navigation. So, which was basically map and compass type stuff. So, anyway, I'm letting everybody go. We're all kind of, we're going to be on the clock here soon, but appreciate everybody's input and got through another week.
All right. Great.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you, Dave.
everybody.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. See you, Travis, Afton. It's always great. And I am looking forward to Friday. Take care, guys.
Hey everyone, welcome. If you're watching this, you're already participating. We'd love to have you join us. Simply send your email address to my email address listed below, and I'll make sure you get an invite to our next gathering. And we're looking forward to connecting with you. Cheers, and welcome to the adventure.